Hi, my name is David, and I'm an alcoholic. Living life in recovery, thank God. Thanks for joining in. We're here to talk about the First Beatitude. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. We're here to talk about just this First Beatitude itself. There are other places you could read about it, like serious, much more scholarly places, much greater expertise than mine in there, I'm sure. But we're going to have a special conversation. We're going to talk about it in connection with the AA program and the 12 steps. You see, I believe the Beatitudes relate in a very special way to why we have to work through the steps. And therefore, how by working through the steps, we progress towards a spiritual awakening. An awakening into a brand new, fantastic way of living. A genuine spiritual awakening, one that we can genuinely grasp and understand for ourselves. It's going to be cool. It's going to be cool. Let's start. We can begin with a point that applies to all 8 of the Beatitudes. In English, the opening words are always blessed are. Blessed are this, for so. Blessed are that, for so. That's how they all start. But actually, from the original Greek, the opening reads, happy are. Early scribes translated the Greek word for happy into the Latin as the word beata. And that's how we know these verses as the Beatitudes. So, the Beatitudes are, in effect, a code of ethics that show us the will of God. And I say that because they came from Jesus himself in the Sermon on the Mount. The will of God as to how we should act in this world. They tell us what the words in the Lord's Prayer, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. They tell us what those words really mean for us, how we act, how we think, how we behave. They tell us how we have to behave here in this life in order to live in accordance with the will of God. And if we live in accordance with the will of God, we alcoholics will be not just happy, but happy, joyous, and free, like the Big Book says. But we notice something else right away, too, in this first Beatitude. The phrases, blessed are the poor in spirit, theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Don't they seem to be an odd connection? Doesn't this connection come across as like, counterintuitive? Like poor heaven. Poor heaven. I'm like, what's up with that? Well, I believe this is intentional. By being counterintuitive, it points to us being able to achieve the seemingly impossible. It's similar to AA phrases like, we have to lose everything in order to gain everything. Or the best way to stay sober is to help another alcoholic. So here's the deal. The phrase poor in spirit translates from the original Greek as wretched, like a beggar, or destitute of hope. It means people in a very beat up, hopeless, worthless state, regardless of class or status in their society. In other words, poor in spirit is what we hear from those people who walk into an AA meeting and then they simply break down. Their voice breaks, they tear up, they weep, their bodies shake, and they sway. Their bodies and their souls have had the life crushed out of them by the diseases of alcoholism and addiction. They feel trapped. They feel hopeless. We've all seen people like this, right? Hell, at one point we were like this, right? But the miracle is that these people are at a point now where they are willing to do whatever it takes to change their lives. Whatever it takes. And my experience is no one can identify with a person in this state of utter demoralization better than another alcoholic or an addict. So now let's switch over to the other phrase, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This is a borrowing pretty direct from the book of Isaiah in the Old Testament, where the Hebrews had sinned and broken their covenant with God, and he punished them by their being conquered. Through Isaiah's words, God promises that if the Hebrews, God's chosen people, if they will renew the covenant, then, quote, they shall inherit the land, or, quote, they shall inherit the earth, or, quote, there shall be the kingdom of heaven. The oldest promise in the Old Testament is that of a promised land. Metaphorically, this is also God's kingdom. So here we have the same metaphor, this time symbolized in the words of Jesus as the kingdom of heaven. Following along with this same metaphor, for an alcoholic or for an addict, at least as I read this vision blends with experiencing my own spiritual awakening. My own. It's like, theirs is the kingdom of heaven, it says. Mine is my spiritual awakening. Now, I think it's important to know the Bible is literally written on the basis of metaphorical language. And this opens our minds and souls as no descriptive writing can possibly do. For a little more thorough discussion of metaphor, you can follow this link that shows up here on the screen to another one of our units called Perspective on the God Thing. There it is. The metaphor discussion in that unit starts at around the 6-minute point and runs for about a minute and a half. It's pretty good. This is all great now, but here we are. We have a wretched, desolate human spirit, destitute of hope, but now willing to try anything. And so what do we point them towards a spiritual awakening. But how is that soul supposed to get from the point of utter despair to the point of this fantastic, astonishing spiritual awakening? How do they do that? Well, here's my answer. I don't know of any other program that's better suited to this transformation than the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. You see, inch by inch, step by step, one day at a time, the steps help us rediscover meaning and value in our lives. They help us identify those places where we've fallen short, the things that we call character defects. The AA program gives us guidelines and tools so that we can work on those defects, so that we can surmount those moments when we feel like, hey, we're in danger of slipping back. And we understand that we're only one drink away from a slip. So we have to make this recovery, this constant journey of spiritual progress, we have to make it a constant priority in our lives, practicing our program every single day and with sincere goals and intentions. We have to use the tools and we have to work the steps. And if we do that every day, we poor, broken spirits, we desolate and hopeless drunks and addicts, we will achieve a spiritual awakening of our own understanding, such that even though we're still here in this life on earth, ours too shall be the kingdom of heaven. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you in the next Beatitude.